Gamers, it turns out we were right about cheat clients. All cheers to that. So about 3 weeks ago, I uploaded this video, which was basically me taking a look at a lot of the plugins that are commonly found on cheat clients, which a lot of them are, of course, very clearly cheating, but some of them not so much. They fell more into kind of a gray area, and I figured they might even be good to have in the main game. I'm not going to repeat everything. I will link the video down below if you'd like to check that out. But cut to today, Jagex released this blog post. So let's go ahead and check out what they said. So they kick off the blog post with talking about how they're putting a lot of resources and effort into the C++ client, or the official Jagex client, if that's how you want to name it, which apparently we're going to hear about in the near future. So hopefully we're here soon. But then they launch directly into talking about their plans for the future of third-party clients. The first sentence that I want to draw your attention to is this one here. They say that we've spoken before about being more proactive in protecting the interests of the game and acting if its health is threatened. As the game's owners, we need to take a look both at the current situation and where things are heading. I love this. This is fantastic to hear from Jagex. This is something that I talked a lot about in my previous video. I basically just spoke about how we need to kind of take a step back and take an objective view from the perspective of just pure game design about what we do and do not allow in the game. This is the best way to ensure a future for RuneScape, and it's the best way to ensure the long-term health of the game itself. So this is honestly perfect. This is exactly what we want to hear. They then go on to say, inevitably, as time has gone on, the initial boundaries we set out for what is and is not acceptable have been pushed to the limit. And at times, the lines of acceptability have been crossed. Outside of individual client features that are essentially allowing players to cheat their way through content or enabling impossible switches in PvP and PvM, we are also seeing usage of non-approved third-party clients that readily provide easy access to bot scripts. I will be talking about this later. That's important to note. They then just say that they need to find a balance between player enjoyment and game integrity. But the main announcement for this blog post is this. They say, with RuneLite now available in the Jagex launcher and conversations ongoing with other client developers such as HDOS, we feel as now is the right time to make some changes. As such, going forward, the only clients permitted for use outside of the official ones are the approved client list, which consists of RuneLite, HDOS, and OS Buddy. Now, I feel like a lot of people are about to say, I thought these third-party clients have always been banned. Not technically, because what Jagex has outlawed in the past are specific plugins that break the rules of game integrity, not specific clients. So with this list, I think it's just a good step forward to be more clear-cut and concise on what is and is not allowed. But again, it gets a little deeper. We'll talk about it later. Jagex is giving players a grace period from today until Friday, June 24th. Players have the opportunity to transition to either one of our official clients or any of the clients listed on the approved client list. Should players be found using other clients beyond this date, their accounts will be banned for 2 weeks. Continued infringements beyond this will result in permanent account bans. Now, this is something that I'm going to be focusing on for the later half of this video, is the actual enforcement, because that is really the important part. But the blog post is not over yet. There's one more very important thing that they have to announce on this. Basically, the next paragraph is them just saying they're updating their third-party client guidelines and allowing some plugins that historically have been banned. As an example, you can expect the removal of death animations as a plugin on RuneLite. Now, the death animations is kind of the most glaring gripe that a lot of higher level PVMers had, and Jagex actually explicitly stated that this was banned in the past. However, I'm not going to roast Jagex for flip-flopping on this issue. I'm actually going to do the opposite. I very much respect this decision. Jagex saw that they made a mistake when they implemented that rule. They were willing to admit that and fix it to ensure the long-term health of the game, which is exactly what they were talking about in the blog post. Jagex, thumbs up. Now, I know, of course, all of the Reddit Andrews that are angry about the cheating streamers will come forth with their utmost and sincerest apologies. Joking, of course, I know that a lot of people did feel slighted by this, so I do understand the frustration. Jagex never really took action against anyone using this plugin, so it ended up being a rule only for the people who wanted to follow the rules. I think I'm starting to make a greater point about life here, but regardless, that is all in the past because this morning I got to run a gauntlet and pick up the loot immediately when the monsters died. Dude, it was so nice. Moving on, another major feature that actually kind of flew under the radar here is the party system in RuneLite. It's essentially the socket plugin that we talked about in my last video, but without the turbo OP plugins like the soap maze and things like that. You can see the specs of your teammates, you can see their health bar, their prayer bar, you can even ping tiles, which I think is the coolest thing. And I know that a lot of these additions might not seem earth-shattering in the moment, and they might not be, but what they are is hugely important for the long-term health of the game. So, big shout out to Adam, the developer of RuneLite. I love you. And also the J-Mods. I know you guys got a lot of flack, but your passion for the game really does shine through sometimes. So we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you. Now, I've had several people come up to me in game and be like, dude, you did it, bro. You got death animations removed, bro. Hell yeah. And for the record, I would really like to state I probably had almost nothing to do with it, if anything at all. These decisions tend to be kind of slow and bureaucratic, and I would bet money that Jagex had plans to do this for months at this point, especially before Raids 3, which they did, so great. I've actually talked briefly with a couple of the J-Mods as well, and they're making it seem like the in-house client, the C++ client, is a massive priority for them. Which makes sense, and I think is a good idea that they're making all this stuff happen now before Raids 3, when we are likely going to see a massive spike in players. I mean, this is the biggest update since Raids 2, I guess. Or maybe the Inferno? No, Raids 2 is Raids 2. But this leads me to my next point, and something that I talked about a little bit earlier that I want to expand upon. That is the approved clients list and how they're going to enforce it. And I said this in my last video, my ideal future for RuneScape is an official Jagex launcher with an official Jagex client. It should have all of the features that do not harm integrity, but are good for quality of life. We just need to find the balance between those two. And this is what Jagex is moving towards. They have demonstrated that with this update. But there is still a huge hurdle. That's the actual enforcement of these rules. Jagex said that using these unapproved clients is indeed bannable. But if they don't ban anyone, it's really not a rule at all. So, to dive deeper on this issue and unpack it a little bit more, I once again got in contact with the developer of one of the largest third-party clients out there. Because I'll be honest, this issue goes quite deep and the answer will be very complicated. So he essentially stated that while he does not know what specific detection systems are going to be used, which, I mean, go figure, Jagex obviously does not want this to be known so people would be able to skirt around it. It is much easier for Jagex to whitelist a specific client like RuneLite than it is to check what client specifically this person is using. And Jagex works very closely with Adam, the developer of RuneLite, so it's going to be quite easy for them to develop some sort of token or method of authentication to determine that, yes, this person is using RuneLite. Which, on a positive side note, if this works out, this should drastically cut down on the number of bots in the game. Most bots require specific clients to run on, and because in the past any client was okay, these bots remained largely untouched. Now, it's going to be much more difficult for them to run through the regulated RuneLite client. But, as I said earlier, it's not really that simple, because at the end of the day, it gets fairly technical when you get into differentiating between the distributed RuneLite version and the local development build that people need access to be able to create the plugins for RuneLite that we all use. But my technical expertise ended long ago on this subject, so I'm just going to leave this up to Jagex to handle. The one thing that both of us believed in very heavily is that Jagex needs to be harsh with their punishments on third-party clients. People need to be given that 2-week ban immediately. As soon as the 25th starts, we need to see 1,000 players banned for this with their names posted on the Jagex website. Not really, but people do need to be banned swiftly after the 24th. If Jagex fails to make an example of client users on the 25th and show no real enforcement of their rules, compliance is going to be extremely low, which, go figure. And probably the most interesting part of the conversation I had with this guy is this following message. As for Redacted, that's the name of the client, I will not be logging on it again after the 24th myself. This guy won't even be using his own client. And from our previous conversations, this guy is a very nice guy. He's extremely genuine, and he really does care about game integrity and the future of RuneScape. The whole point of his client is that he is the sole developer, so there is only one point of failure. There have been numerous scams in the past where someone is trying to learn raids, and they'll have a mentor come in and be like, hey, go download this cool plugin, it'll help with the raid, and boom, you're scammed, your GP is gone. His whole aim was to reduce these types of incidents, and the greater client in general was more so based on personal moral guidelines rather than those of Jagex. Anyway, we have a long way to go with clients, but the progress we've been making recently is making me very optimistic. So again, drop your thoughts down below, guys. Seriously, are we moving in the right direction? Did we add too much? Is there more we need to add? 95% of the discussion on the last video was fantastic. I would say 95% of people agreed with me, but even those who didn't tended to be very respectful, so thank you, I appreciate that. To the other 5% who did not quite get the message, I hope you find peace. I would appreciate a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more arrogant cheat client content, and check me out on Twitch. Thank you guys. Stay tasty.
Don't even think for a second, nigga, you might need a moment. You were only given one shot like a buzzer beater, but you stoned it. Brick house, brick house, brick house, brick house. 11 bricks at the studio, here's a brick on the house, here's a brick on the house. Yeah, they're coming quick, just like SWAT in the drug bust, but I'm slick, bitch, call me Rick.